in the cause of a new and a better Scotland that puts our kids before cash, our pensioners before profit, our schools and our hospitals before missiles and illegal wars. In that cause, we will never give up, we will never give in. We're here for the long haul, we're here for Scottish independence. I'm going to invite a young man onto the stage now who has a declaration that he wants to bring to our attention, a declaration that is available at a tent over here that I want you all to be signing by the end of today. But let me introduce Mike Fenwick to say some more.
I've been told to be very brief, so I'm going to do this in a simple way. I'm going to ask Tommy a question. That's the declaration he's referring to. It's a declaration of a sovereign Scot. And Tommy and I backstage read through it, so he knew what he was going to be invited to do. This question is to Tommy, and it's to everyone that's standing in front of me just now. Tommy, do you consent to the continuation of the Treaty of Union?
It's got to be a very loud no! Thank you very much, Mike.
I'm over there. I hope to see you later, and have a great, great Scottish day.
Brilliant, Mike. Thank you very much. We're going to start with our speeches before we're into... Can I invite Judith Reid onto the stage, who's going to tell us all about the chain of freedom. Judith.
Hi everybody, what a fantastic sight. I'm just going to read this speech. I'm absolutely useless at platforming. However, I've got it written down, so hopefully you can all hear me. Can you hear me at the back? Is that way better? Okay, here we go. I'm Judith Reid, and I'm part of a team that was formed back in January this year, and here today to talk to you about the Chain of Freedom Scotland. I hope you've all heard about it. The Chain of Freedom Scotland is a unique, momentous and historical project that was set to take place along the Forth and Clyde Canal towpath, and dare I say it, the Union Canal. We no longer have permissions for the Union Canal, with Scottish Canals citing health and safety issues. However, on Saturday the 14th of October, 4 weeks today, us determined and thrawn Scots will take to the Forth and Clyde Canal towpath, which is only 57 kilometres long. That's very important. You remember the 57 kilometres long. We need this, and we need you to make this happen. On the 23rd of August in 1989, countries across the Baltics managed to muster over 2 million people who held hands to form a human chain of over 600 kilometres long. Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania making a stand, a human chain in solidarity for their respective countries. They didn't have the resources that we have today, social media, internet and instant access at the touch of our fingers, but they did it against all the odds. And at present, Lithuania has had one of the fastest growing economies in Europe for the past few years, and it doesn't show any signs of slowing down. Lithuania became the first Soviet state to declare independence 7 months after their human chain. By 1991, the independence of all 3 states was recognised by most Western countries. The protest was one of the earliest and longest unbroken human chains in history. let us take from them the possibilities and the empowerment that their citizens showed on that historic day. We must draw a line here today in Freedom Square. Together we can and we will stand in solidarity as a nation determined in regaining our independence. On the 14th of October, we will line the banks of Scotland's Forth and Clyde Canal in defiance, in spite of the suppression that has rained down on us for 316 years. Perhaps not always seeing eye to eye, but for our independence, we will put party allegiances aside and stand hand in hand for our very own Chain of Freedom Scotland. We are not going to back down. We are not going to give up. We must galvanise and we must show our determination. Get registered, get signed up. Do not be that missing link. Go network, go energise, and let's make history. Our time is now. Thank you.
Put your hands together for Angus Brendan McNeil.
Thank you, Dapple and Tommy. Thanks very much. Can I tell you, I've tried independence. I'm living independence at the moment. It's working quite well. It isn't enforced independence, but independence is a good thing. So let's just keep that in mind. Friends, it's good to see you all joining here together. But we really have to stop meeting like this. It's past time for us to be meeting like this. Things should have happened by now. We should be independent by now. Unfortunately, we're not independent by now. And this week in the House of Commons, I mentioned that Ireland has a budget surplus of 10 billion euros. Scotland doesn't. Ireland in 3 years' time will have 20 billion euros. Scotland can't build small hospitals in small islands. I know this in the Hebrides. Things have to change for us, but they won't change with Holyrood as it is. We know that. One thing Holyrood can do for us, though, we know that referendums are blocked. We know that we can't have a referendum, and we have to get our head around that. But Holyrood could hold an early election if it wanted. It's so far chosen not to. And I know that the eyes of Holyrood are on the eyes of the SNP HQ are currently on the Westminster election. And fair enough, they've got a strategy for that. I don't think it's going to work. I wanted an early Holyrood election. I wanted that since the first interview I gave on the steps of the Supreme Court last November, following the decision that said Holyrood couldn't organise a referendum. The election, the early election can still happen, and it might have to happen after the Westminster election. There's no chance before it, but we have to start thinking when the next strategy doesn't work, like the previous strategies don't work, because you can't have a mandate that's depending on somebody else to fulfill it. You need to be able to do it yourself. And when you find out that you will not get any further unless you take the power into your own hands, you will inevitably have to use the ballot box, have to use elections, and have to make sure that you can get Scotland's votes into those ballot boxes. The Supreme Court stopped the referendum for a reason, and that reason was democracy, as they say in their own judgment in paragraph 81, look it up. There is authority in the ballot box. Even if it's no legal power, it's got authority in a democracy. Now we can use those ballot boxes at an election, but a better election to hold is a Holyrood one called on independence, not a sideshow of a Westminster election where the media has given us little attention. We could stop the world if we called an early Holyrood election. We may well have to. When we stop the world, it will watch, it will look at us, all countries, all of Scotland, Europe, the wider world, Westminster. Is Scotland going to get on, or is Scotland going to pass it the chance up again as happened in 2014? Friends, I think the next time the Scots get to the ballot box, the people of Scotland will vote for independence. But we have to get ourselves to the ballot box. Now, as we know, the focus is going to be on the next Westminster election in the next 9 to 12 months. And I think the parties who are standing have to not look for independence votes for the parties, but have to look for party votes for independence and work together. Now, people might not get on very well personally, but egos have to be put to one side. Alapa, SNP shouldn't oppose each other at the elections, because if it's a first past the post election to get some traction, we need maximum nationalist, independence MPs going forward. And I challenge, I know I'm still standing in a hearing in a year, and I challenge both Alapa and the SNP to work with me. Hamza Yusuf and Alex Ahmed, let's show it's not about parties, let's show it's about people who are pushing for independence, and let's make it happen. We can make this happen. There are many ways, there are better ways than we've had in the past. And I'll leave you the parting shot, friends. Perhaps we need to have a debate between the leader of Alapa, the leader of the SNP, the leader of the Greens, for us all, and let's thrash out the best way forward together, and not, as it happened in the past, one or two people imposing ideas that failed and are still failing on too many people. It's bigger than 2 or 3 party leaders. It has to be everybody together. And finally, independence has to come. We know it has to come. When we see our neighbours round about us, when we see Ireland, when we see Iceland, when we see Norway, we see Denmark, we see the tiny Faroe Islands, with far more international personality than Scotland, far better standard of living, less poverty, less obsession, less obscenity of the 2-child policy coming from Westminster. And incidentally, I noticed the SNP, my former party, every week, every day of every week, have a press release out condemning and criticising, rightly condemning and rightly criticising the policies from Westminster. But they have the power to end it, and they're the power to end it with an early Holyrood election. Use the ballot boxes, do it soon. If you don't have an early Holyrood election before Westminster, let's make sure you have it just after, because you're going to need to do it that way in the end. Thank you, friends.
Please welcome our next speaker, SNP MP, recent leadership candidate, someone who is prepared to be outspoken in the cause that we all share with her, the cause of independence. Put your hand together for Ash Regan.
Good afternoon, Glasgow Yesers. You're looking great. So, those of us who believe that Scotland is an ancient nation, those of us who believe that just running your own affairs is perfectly normal, and those of us who long for Scotland to retake its place in the world, we will never be satisfied with the status quo. We will never be satisfied with devolution. Because we want independence, and the time for it is now. Not next year, not in the next parliamentary term, but we need to be working on it now. And I believe that we should be taking control of this process ourselves. We should not be begging Westminster for something that is our own decision to make. I do, and hopefully they'll be watching this and they'll hear me say it again. So, our leadership, what we need from them right now is we need them to continue to make the case for independence. We need them to set out a compelling vision that we can all get behind. But we need them to secure us a democratic event so that we can move forward. So I believe that we should be uniting in a democratic alliance. That we should be approaching the next election, or any election, as an opportunity for Scotland to express its choice. We don't ask permission, we go ahead and do it. And that if we get over 50% plus one of that, we would be able to take that as a democratic, clear instruction directly from the people of Scotland to both the government in Westminster and also the government in Edinburgh to just get on with it. We cannot go to Westminster on the back of opinion polls. We need an electoral victory that will put this beyond any doubt whatsoever, and I think that is the way that we can do this. Now, I know you know this, but as politicians, we work for you. We work for the public, not the other way around. And I think that some of us have perhaps forgotten that a wee bit recently. So I'd like to ask for your help. I'd like to ask you to continue to raise your voices, to engage with your politicians, particularly your SNP politicians, and ask them to think seriously about this path that I'm suggesting for how we get a democratic mandate for independence. I believe we need to stand united. Our destination is independence, nothing less. And it will be the choice of the Scottish people. And we know, and you know, that the Scottish people are sovereign. And they will make that choice for us. And when they do, I believe that they will choose freedom. Thank you.
Fabulous. Brothers and sisters, the next speaker, I hope he forgives me if I make this point. He may not forgive me because it's going to make him appear older than he actually looks. But 33 years ago, I shared platforms with this man. And in those days we were fighting against Thatcher's poll tax together. Today I'm proud to be sharing a platform fighting for Scotland's freedom together. Kenny McCaskill, MP, Deputy Leader of Alma.
Let's remember that we fought the poll tax when our political leaders told us to pay it. Not only did we defeat the poll tax, we brought down Margaret Thatcher. Well, we're back again. We've been coming here for many years. There's some stood here on the 19th of September 2014 and they said that the dream would never die. And it hasn't. But what has happened? We've leafleted, we've marched, we've campaigned, we've voted. And what have we been told by our political leaders? We've been told to wheesht. We've been told now is not the time. We've been told we require a gold-plated plan to be able to proceed. All the while our country's plight has worsened. Then we were told there would be a no ifs, no buts referendum in October. This should be the run-up to that occasion when we get the opportunity to cast our votes to liberate our nation. Instead, it's not a no ifs, no buts referendum. It's no referendum at all. It's simply not acceptable. We were told there'd be a plan B. The reality is there was never a plan A. We were told, trust in us, one more push, one more mandate. We'll demand, then we'll deliver. We've given countless mandates. We've been on marches and we've given support and nothing has happened. We're told now, this time they mean it. This time they'll demand. This time Sunak and Starmer will blink, even although Johnson and May didn't shift. This time we're told it will be different. It's time for action. The need is greater than ever. Poverty is escalating in our land. Our country that is energy rich sees almost half of its people in fuel poverty, and we're not even in winter. As the proclaimers sing, we beg for a piece of what's already ours. The time has come to take back control of our own affairs, as it's time to take back control of our own energy. We cannot allow this to continue. No more must we put our faith in strategies that are flawed, in pleas that fall on deaf ears, in those, as the proclaimers sing, who boast and then they cower. Scotland won't be dragged out of the EU against its will. Well, it has, and we're paying the price.
That's why it's time for action. The time is now, as others have said. It's time for Scotland United, because if we don't stand together, then as the saying goes, we'll hang apart. It's time for Scotland United at the election to allow our people to deliver that vote that is the basis for a push for independence. And it's time now for action. That is the basis for a constitutional convention. The time of seeking to give power to an elite, to allow them to demand but then not to deliver our past. We cannot have the situation continuing of boasting and then cowering. It's action, it's independence, and it's Scotland United.
Good afternoon, yesers. You hear me now? Okay, in 4 weeks and 4 days' time, it will be the 18th of October and the eve of the independence referendum we were promised. Where is our referendum? In 2014, Better Together told us Scotland can't. And we replied, yes, we can. And who can forget the patronising Better Together lady who told her husband Paul to shut up and eat his cereal? We didn't listen to them then. So why should we listen to anyone who puts a limit on the ambitions of Scotland today? Then we spoke as one movement, with vision, with passion, for a better Scotland. The SNP leadership have decided they want to go it alone. But before they have even debated their motion with their members at conference, the UK government and the Labour opposition are laughing at them and saying they will already ignore any such mandate. This is not a roadmap to independence. It's a wrong turn up another cul-de-sac of a constitutional blockage, and we must resist it. Nowhere in the McCorquodale opinion does it say begging for an independence referendum is an option, because the Scottish Government ruled that option out with their ill-fated UK Supreme Court action. That option is gone completely. I'm just going to quote some stuff from Professor McCorquodale. He is unequivocal in his opinion. The people of Scotland are distinct within the UK and have a right to self-determination. As the people of Scotland are a people for the purposes of the right to self-determination, they can exercise it. The choice of the means to exercise is for the people to decide, not for the state. Furthermore, Professor McCorquodale explains that the UK, as a signatory to international human rights treaties, has expressly accepted that the right to self-determination is a human right and not just an international legal principle, and is binding under international law on all signatory states. Don't let anyone tell you we can't. However, a key requirement to bringing that right into effect is that we must speak to the world as one movement, not a single political party. The SNP leadership motion is the opposite of what needs to be done. After 10 years of inaction and unpopular policies, the SNP leadership's plan of going it alone just won't fly. Just as the patronising Better Together lady, no one wants to be told to shut up and eat their cereal. And make no mistake, Wisht for Indy is the same message. Don't think we know best, we'll decide for you. Well, in 2021, I decided I'd had my fill of Wisht for Indy cereal. And I will shut up no longer. Well, I have absolutely no regrets, and let me be clear, the risks of continued inaction are serious and significant. This summer, I attended an international conference on independence, and I heard firsthand from countries across the world whose people have been suppressed and their movements have been oppressed. People from Catalonia, Corsica, Kurdistan and beyond.
Governments are using domestic law and state violence to restrict the fundamental human rights of these peoples. Just as the Scottish Government ignores the McCorquodale opinion, every UK government will continue to ignore the SNP, whereas a Scotland United campaign would unite and ignite the movement. And most importantly, it would give us real authority to speak to the world and Scotland's representatives. Uniting the movement doesn't mean we have to agree on everything, or indeed much. We only have to agree on one core principle, that an independent future for the people of Scotland is the right future to seek. Listen, folks, it's time for Scotland United to rise up and for this country to be a nation again. As Scotland United, we will never be defeated. Thanks.
I'll need to put on my specs because our next speaker, our scheduled speaker, is a guy called Jim Fairley. Unfortunately, Jim, MSP, SNP, MSP, unfortunately you'll be aware that Jim was admitted to hospital and he only got out last night, but he wanted to send us a speech anyway, so thanks Jim. Friends, firstly, I must give my apologies to you for not being here in person, but circumstances are what they are. However, having my thoughts relayed to you via the oratory of Tommy Sheridan is a substitute of magnitude that I am delighted to have. Oh, well said, Jim. I like that bit. Honest, this is here. I've not just made that bit up. I am confident that today's event will be a great success, but our success as a nation does not rest on today. It rests on the unity of the people of Scotland to believe in themselves and each other, so that we can throw off this burden of fear that has plagued our country and our people for far too long. This burden that good things don't happen for us because those good things are for the privilege of others, as though somehow we are not worthy, is something we must rid ourselves of forever. That is one of the things I loved about the campaign phrase in the referendum. Hope over fear. It inspired a vision of better to come and individual encouragement, because we have nothing to fear other than our own self-doubt. And when we shake that off as a nation, we can once again be citizens of the world who bring so much more to the table than we already do. It may be a good catchphrase, but I would add a psyche to the principle of the hope over fear. A psyche of confidence over fear, ambition over fear, creativity over fear, ingenuity over fear, entrepreneurship over fear, empathy over fear, compassion over fear, resilience over fear. I would add all of these things so that we regain the stuff that made Scotland a nation of courage, a nation of achievers, a nation of explorers and creators and wealth builders, and gave the world more inventions than we can remember, and taught the world that anything and everything is possible. And more importantly, friends, at one time made us a fiercely independent nation. We just have to believe in ourselves to make it happen again. I don't know about you, but I am sick to death of hearing about all the things we can't do, about all the resources we don't have, about all the things we can't manage, and about all the things we should be grateful to the benevolence of Westminster governments for, when in reality we help to fund their mismanagement with our resources and our toil, while they impose austerity and food banks on our people. That kind of benevolence we can do well without. I'm sick of sitting in a parliament where I can, with absolute legitimacy, point to left or right in any debate in the chamber and say they are holding back our potential. I'm sick of being able to say to my constituents in Perthshire South and Kinrossshire, vote for me, but don't blame me if I can't deliver what we need, because there are so many things we can't control. Or when they tell me the things that are badly affecting their lives, like the cost of heating their homes, or the cost of driving to work, or the cost of school uniforms, or the cost of feeding their families, I can with absolute legitimacy tell them, I am sorry, but I can't do anything about that right now, because our budget is controlled by Westminster. We can make different choices, but robbing Peter to pay Paul is no way to enthuse our people to believing in a country as a land that offers them real opportunity. Independence is not about a land of milk and honey, a utopia where it only rains at night and it's sunny during the day, where crops are always bountiful, where everyone has a job, when there's no deprivation or injustice, because that land doesn't exist. What does exist with independence is accountability without excuses. So, if we make the promises and don't keep them, if we show a lack of judgment, if we don't invest in things that make the lives of people better in this country, better, like healthcare, education and good pensions, if we don't work with industry to create wealth and jobs to pay for those necessary public services, if we don't teach and train the next generation, if we don't pursue and engage that world famous Scottish entrepreneurial spirit, if we don't engage in strong international relations and be good international neighbours, if we don't ensure housing is built to eradicate homelessness, if we don't live by compassion and empathy and legislate accordingly, then we have no one to blame but ourselves, and we deserve to lose our seats. In an independent country where we have all the powers, we have full accountability. That's what independence gives us. The words of Jim Fairley, MSP, SNP.
For organising this annual event in the face of so much poison and opposition from unionist organisations. So let's give him a big round. I was warned when I moved to Scotland that politics here was a dirty business, but I had no idea just how dirty it would get when I arrived in 2011. If, like Tommy, you have the ability to make people in London nervous, then brace yourself for the hatchet job that will inevitably follow. We've seen it happen to Alex Salmond, we've seen it happen to Tommy Sheridan, and we are now watching it happen to Fergus Ewing. Watch out, Ash, you could be next. The drip, drip stench of desperation to kill independence stone dead is overwhelming. Whatever you think of Tommy, Alex, Fergus, Ash, or any of the other great independence voices you've heard here today, they are fully behind a Scotland united, because they know Scotland will be a far better place without the long controlling tentacles of the billionaire beasts in Westminster. In other words, the Tories. They've looted and plundered this great nation, they've stolen our resources, they've turned an energy-rich country into a financial black hole where poverty comes knocking on every door. And now we have the super rich determined to use our lands and lochs for extended holidays, turning the countryside into a billionaire's playground. This is the start of the Highland Clearances Part 2. Are we going to sit back and let this crime of ethnic cleansing of the Scottish people happen all over again? No! Sorry, I can't hear you. No! As Bob Dylan wrote, the times they are a-changing, and it's down to the likes of you and me to make sure that those changes happen. What makes this festival so special is its use and highlighting of Scottish culture and music, because the Scottish talent on show here today has the potential to draw in and inspire our young people. Don't let London ethnically cleanse this rich culture. Put nothing past them. They tried it in 1746 by banning the kilt and banning tartan. Although, as you'd expect, the landed gentry, the boss class, were exempt. The British establishment, wrapped in the butcher's apron of empire, tried to ethnically cleanse the Scottish nation. Today, the butcher's apron is still intact. The Westminster government has exploited Scotland's North Sea oil and gas. The Tory and Labour governments once hailed this as an economic triumph, but the truth is more of a story of plundered wealth and mismanaged resources. Today we have in London another government just as ruthless, which is prepared to pay £200,000 per refugee to send asylum seekers to Rwanda. Shame, yes, shame. Little wonder our youth feel so alienated and rejected. We need to tell them that independence is perfectly normal. They need to be educated about Scottish history and not the sanitized version taught in our schools. Learning about injustice and real threats to world peace is vital. They don't want to hear dry facts from uninspiring leaders in Westminster. Events like Hope Over Fear can unlock their revolutionary spirit. And I know it's in there. It is inside them. We just have to inspire our young people to stand up and rise up. We need to fill them with a burning desire to incinerate the decaying social system which still props up the ruling classes and the crumbling facade of the British Empire, including that teetering apex that is called the Crown. Who booed as the national anthem, God Save the King, blasted out over Hampden Park last week? Yes, me too. I know I did, but not our king, absolutely right. But why the hell did the English fans and Ally McCoist and Graham Souness take offence? The anthem is not even about England, it's about a cancerous, toxic class system where a self-appointed family of the ruling elite still view the working class as peasants. The truth is, we need to rescue our comrades over the border in England and make them see that the privileged and elite disinherited them a long time ago. Gone are our coal mines, shipyards, steel-making and car-making industries. The working classes paid in blood, sweat and tears to line the pockets of the boss class. Comrades, the great only seem great when they keep you on your knees. Well, I'm not going to bow down to anyone, especially in the upper classes, and I suggest you do the same. Rise up and shout. If any city in Scotland can rise up, it's Glasgow. The people here The people here have already shown how they deal with bullies. Total respect to the Kenmure Street residents back in May 2021. Those protesters who blocked the road to stop a Home Office raid remove asylum seekers from Kenmure Street, Pollokshields. I salute each and every one of them. What a disgrace that Police Scotland allowed their officers to be used by London in such a way. The police should have arrested the incomers from the Home Office, because we say it loud and proud, refugees are welcome here. This was heroic resistance in action. People who refused to surrender their ideas and opinions and principles. Principles which are alien to the UK government, who look at asylum seekers as though they are second-class citizens. We are all human beings. We came into this world with nothing, and that's exactly how we will leave. All we can do is be the best that we can. Comrades, the issue today is not about being on the political left or the political right, or being trapped in an out-of-date, rancid class system. Today is about women's rights, and as you know, women won't wheesht in Glasgow or any corner of Scotland. Our real enemy is time, and it's running against us. We cannot wait for Holyrood to act. We are doing this all wrong. The politicians are our servants, and we, the people, are their masters, and we must leave them in no doubt about that. And that goes for the corrupt, sneering wretches in the Crown Office who will twist the arm of the law to do its bidding against Scotland's interests. You know what I'm talking about. The whole Scottish establishment should be afraid of us, all of us, because the independence movement is now much bigger than any political party, and so therefore it is beyond their reach and beyond their control. We know dark forces have been at play in Holyrood, but they've had their day, and their collusion with the police, civil servants and the Crown Office is at an end. We won't be fooled again. That is why the Hope Over Fear rally is so important. We will unite and bring people from all across the independence movement together. It's a grand movement, multi-led, diverse and growing by the day, with people who want to live in a fairer and more equal world. Why are we at loggerheads with each other? It doesn't make sense. Once we get independence, if we don't like the political leaders, then we can just get rid of them without the need for a guillotine. Our revolution will happen, but our revolution will be peaceful. We've no need for a guillotine. Our young people need to be confident that independence will give them a future and set them on a journey where public ownership of the land, sea and air will help us build socialism with an abundance of natural resources in an educated nation. If we have to wage wars, let us wage war on poverty and inequality. In fact, let's make poverty a crime. We will have the powers to build a new nation. We will have the powers to scrap nuclear weapons. They have no use in the 21st century. Nuclear weapons do not keep us safe. Ask the people of Hiroshima and Nagasaki that. Being a member of NATO will not keep us safe. Pandering to billionaires will not keep us safe. In an independent Scotland, having a just and fair society, that's what will keep us safe. In an independent Scotland, let's force the billionaires and the corporations to pay their fair share of tax and stop pretending that immigrants are the reason for our poverty. It has become too easy to blame our most vulnerable for the actions of the most powerful. Don't give in to the hate. Hope, not fear. Hope, not fear. Hope, not fear. Thank you.
Yvonne Ridley! Brothers and sisters, before Pete Scally comes up to entertain us, I hope he's getting ready. We're going to have the representative of the campaign group, which has kept us marching through thick and thin, through sunshine and hail and rain, kept us marching all across Scotland. Put your hands together for Sean Mellon from All Under One Banner.
Thanks, Tommy. All Under One Banner, same as Hope Over Fear, was formed in 2014, just after the referendum, with our first event in October. We've had 38 events so far. Our biggest one was in 2019 with attendance in Edinburgh of over 200,000 people. To begin with, we only done Glasgow. Then we got to 2019, we says, no, we're going to branch out. So we started travelling about our Scotland. So if we've not been to your town, we might be at some point. Right. We have no affiliation to any political party or person. Our affiliation is to the people of Scotland. That is it. All means all. Together. Same as united. Going back to the days of the ref. Do you remember a phrase, once we get the house, we can redecorate it? Right. Can we focus on getting the house, the prize, instead of looking at the decorations? They come later. We're funded by SIF, Central Fundraiser and Provider and Events Groups. So you'll see them at some of the rallies, go up and speak to them. It's a guy called Ian Grant, he'll better to fill you in what they actually do than me. But they help out a lot, not just us, but a lot of other smaller groups. Our last march was up in Skye. It was mostly locals, it was up there, but a lot of people did travel. It was a good weekend, but sadly, a man lost his life in a road accident, Sandy McCracken. Our condolences to Sandy's family and friends, and of course to the Yes Bikers who lost a brother that weekend. Our next event is next Saturday, Falkirk. Hope to see you there. And we've got one after that, Edinburgh. Hopefully by a big one. I'm going to give a wee plug for one, the 14th of October for the Chain of Freedom as well. And I can confirm that both the Yes Bikers will be at both Falkirk and Edinburgh. Next year, we're doing Stirling, Elgin, Edinburgh, Glasgow, and we might pull a wee rabbit out of the hole if there's an election, or well, there will be an election. Right, I'm going to get off the stage. Hope you had a great day. I'm going to leave you a wee message. Forward is one. Hope over fear. United for independence. All under one banner.
So this is kind of good news and bad news, and I'll get the bad bit over first, and hopefully the good news will drown that out. We're here today under a banner of hope over fear. And a message, Scotland United. It's the most important message that Scotland could hear today. It's so important that it shouldn't just be a message. It should be a command. Scotland, be united. Because if we are not united, we have no hope of ever breaking out of the prison that is this union. And let's be very clear, it is a prison. There's a plaque in Westminster that quotes some Tory lord or English lord whose name I can never be bothered to remember. And it says, "We have catched Scotland Now we must hold her fast. You know that saying, when someone tells you who they are, believe them? When they tell you what the union is, believe them. Now, you don't break out of a prison by negotiating with the guards, do you? You break out en masse together. Scotland will have to break out of this union. Make no mistake, there'll be no Section 30, no legal route from an unlawful international treaty breaking English-British state. We will have to force our way out of this union. And there are a number of ways we can do it. As you probably know, Salvo's working very hard on some of the constitutional, international, legal and challenges that can help us to do it. But what is really going, and we will, by the way, just for those who keep saying we don't believe in politicians, yes we do, we will need our politicians. However, the most important thing, without which there is no break, there is no freedom, is a united Scotland. How do we do that? Here's the bad news. We can look back to that movement which from 2012 to 2014 marched together, campaigned together, sang, celebrated, spread the word together, and then voted together. But my dear, dear Scottish family, right now that movement is divided along party political lines and at each other's throat. How do we fix this? We all know why. We all know why. The horrific spectacle of court cases and corruption allegations, police investigations, divisive GRA, maybe worst of all, the promise year after year, no ifs nor buts, this is the year, a referendum. And we've seen two things happen as a result of that. Watching this, for me, it was like watching the leadership of Scotland's political independence establishment turn into a scorpion that was stinging itself with its own tail. And it's still going on. Then we saw that pass down to our movement, so that we are stinging ourselves with our own tails. But there's worse yet. Yeah, I'm not done with the bad news. Across the length and breadth of Scotland, our massive, incredible independence movement packed up and went home. The yes hubs are closing. The voters are not turning out. Take a look at the size of the crowd in this square. Look what was gathered in Holyrood. They claimed 20,000. They're lucky if it was 5. What's happened? What's happened is that people have lost the hope we're talking about. They've lost the belief. They've come to think, what's the point? They're still pro-Indy. We know the independence vote has gone up. But the presence, the energy, the desire, the belief seems to have gone. It doesn't matter who did it, because actually, if you look very closely, you'll find the hand of the British state behind the lot. So, we know it's there. We know that spirit can rise. How do we reawaken it? I have a suggestion. Our political system is broken. But hey, you know what, guys? It's an English system we've got. It's not the Scots system. It doesn't reflect our values. It doesn't work the way that Scotland used to work, or would work if it was free. Do you remember what it was that the Scottish Constitutional Convention, in its claim of right for Scotland, said, repeated by Ian Blackford in 2018 in Westminster, and quoting, by the way, the claim of right 1689, which is still law and still judiciable? They paraphrased the 1689 claim of right like this: the nation of Scotland, the people of Scotland, are sovereign and have the right to choose the form of government best suited to their needs. Pay close attention. The form of government. Not the flavour of political party, not sovereignty every 5 years, the right to imagine the kind of government that would work for us, that would end this nightmare that so many of our people are living in, that would restore the common good, the sovereignty of the people, that could make Scotland a beacon for the whole world. We can imagine that, and we have the right to make it real. That is what the claim of right means. That is the dream that will get people back out, I believe, because they will not believe in this system anymore. They will not believe in this broken, shabby, top-down, elite-based, we go cap in hand to them and they say no system that we have lived in for so long. So what does it mean, the sovereignty of the Scots? What does Salvo mean? What does the claim of right mean? It means we have to dream bigger. Not just independence, but independence of the kind of nation we can call into being, the one that is living in every single one of us right now, and that we do not leave to anybody else to invent or create for us. That is the message we take out to our fellow Scots. Do you want to dream with us? Do you want to build a different Scotland with us? Do you want to imagine the best Scotland there could ever be, based on our past, looking to our future? Let's do that together. Thank you.